first, live, local. This is Good Day Oregon Plus.
Hello, everyone. This is Good Day Oregon Plus, as it says right there, and thank you for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. I just want to pull that up first because today it's very, very nice outside. That is our Shriners camera looking at downtown Portland with Mount St. Helens in the background. So great day to be outdoors, but we appreciate all of you joining us here for this. We're here every weekday. We start at 11 a.m. right after Good Day Oregon. We continue throughout the hour. Right now here at the top, though, we're talking about the Oregon Department of Transportation and the funding gap that they are going through right now. Of course, this is something that's been widely discussed here for quite a while, but we're going to find out a little more details about exactly what's happening and what this could mean, especially for travelers out there in the state, if this continues. And so we've got David House from the Oregon Department of Transportation joining us right now. And David, thank you for being here to talk about this. And, to start off, I think just to give everybody the layout of where we're at right now, can you talk about, how much of a gap we're dealing with, and I guess what the current state of things are when it comes to that?
Our current funding gap is estimated at about $242 million. That's lower than the figure we had last summer because we're a quarter of the way through this biennium. The biennium runs through June 30, 2027. And since that time, since failure of a transportation package to pass in the regular session and the referendum challenge of the special session bill, we have been operating on an austerity budget. We have left hundreds of vacancies open, and we have focused our hiring just on the road crews and some DMV positions for the most part, and delayed and canceled, deferred maintenance to the best of our ability. And so that has created, a need for an update going into this short legislative session. So if nothing happens, if we have no change at all in this session to our current funding formula, that's what the funding gap is for the remainder of this biennium.
And so when we're looking at that, so no more, as you mentioned, as far as the hiring, does this include any layoffs potentially when it comes down to it?
So that is the worst case scenario is if there is no change at all to the current funding formulas, things keep going the way they are now, we have to find that $242 million in savings by cutting programs and through layoffs. So we have an estimate on that. As of this week, we have about 570 vacancies that we have voluntarily left open in order to save money. In addition to that, if there's no change to the funding formula, we would have to lay off about 470 more employees starting probably in March.
Okay, so as soon as March, that would be when that would transpire. And so for those 470 employees that could potentially be laid off, what kind of a department would that be from as far as under the Oregon Department of Transportation?
Mm-hmm. I don't think people would notice it immediately because we would focus on maintaining as many positions in road crews and at DMV field offices, for example, but we would leave many, many vacancies open internally, and some of those road crews and DMV vacancies, they would probably still remain open. So the impact would be slower response to crashes or landslides, or other incidents on the highway, longer wait times at DMV, a variety of things like that that are covered by what we call our maintenance and operations budget. That's running the day-to-day operations of the whole agency, and that's the portion of the budget that is in this funding formula crunch.
And you referenced a couple of things there. What are some of the big things that people would notice as you go throughout the year should we not find any more funding for this situation?
Well, I think we would see us getting through this winter, pretty similar to last winter. And then the changes would come during the following year. So in the Portland metro area, for example, you will see a slower response to crashes for traffic control. We would see deferred maintenance getting to simple things like potholes, but also things like graffiti cleanup or litter and debris cleanup. Anything that's not deemed an immediate threat to safety is going to have to wait, whereas we're going to focus our resources on immediate threats to safety and critical repairs to anything that any emergency repairs that need to be done, such as guardrail taken out in a crash, for example.
So definitely some issues and concerns there for people for those things that you just brought up right there. But when we're looking at the potential for trying to fund this, can you tell us about this session here with the legislature, if there's anything that you can talk about with that as far as possible solutions to this?
So our role as executive branch with a separation of powers is to do what they tell us to do, essentially. And so our role is to provide them with as much information as possible on our programs, our funding, and our current situation. And that's part of the reason for this update right now heading into the session. So it really is up to them to take all this information and do the really hard work, make the really hard choices on how to fund, where to get the money, and how to spend the money. That's really all in the legislature's court, and that is a really tough responsibility. They do have many, many tough choices to make.
Just one practical question as far as, we're here in January, we haven't had a really major storm yet, and maybe we won't. Maybe we go through winter without one, but say that we do get one, a big ice storm, something like we had a couple of years ago. At its current level, would the Oregon Department of Transportation have enough personnel and resources to handle something like that?
So we're on a similar level as last winter. Now that is in terms of staffing, and that is not historically normal levels, but it's about the same as last year. And so, if you're hoping for good weather in Oregon to help you with your budget, you're in trouble from the start. But we are hoping for a mild winter. Now, we did have some serious rainfall and landslides in the late fall and early winter. But right now we have sunny skies. So yes, severe storms would cost us money, will take resources to deal with. And it will be a factor in the costs of this winter operations. And we are hoping for a mild winter still.
And when it comes to repairs, from that atmospheric river and all of that precipitation that we had, the landslides, I know there's the one down by Alsea. There's, of course, the issues on Highway 6 as well. Is this funding gap going to delay and slow those current repairs that you're working on right now?
At this time, it's hard to say. But those kinds of repairs should be eligible for federal grants, so that will help us. But it's really hard to say, would we be able to make the repairs in those slides as quickly as we would in another year? But it's important to note that especially the slide near the coast on 229, that's a huge, huge slide. It hasn't even finished moving yet. So that's years in the making, no matter what our funding situation is, simply because of the scale of the problem.
Gotcha. Well, David, anything else that you think is important for people to know?
Stay safe and always check tripcheck.com before you hit the road for any trip, short or small.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us here. To get that side from the Oregon Department of Transportation to understand a little bit more about really what's at stake here and what the ramifications are. And obviously, as I mentioned, the legislature will make their own decisions on how all that works, but it's great to know, just from your standpoint of what's going on, to get that information to everybody. So thank you very much, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for everybody watching, this is Good Day Oregon Plus. Again, we are live streaming here, so if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, you'll see this video end, but we are here in the newsroom, and we'll be here throughout the hour all the way to our noon news. We'll be covering all kinds of different stories and topics that we're doing here today, so good time to download that Fox 12 Oregon app. But we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after that with more Good Day Oregon Plus.